Tomi Victoria Isijola is an associate consultant at Ernst & Young Nigeria office and a member of the EY People Advisory Services PAS practice. She has advisory experience providing a range of services to clients in the oil and gas, telecommunications, finance, consulting, public and private sectors. She's also experienced in competency assessment, learning and development, HR transformation, job evaluation, and organization design. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host for today, Tomi Victoria Isijola.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Career Fair 2.0. Say hello to whoever is sitting next to you. Say good morning. Good morning. It's nice to see you all. Thank you also for joining us, for those joining us online. This is the Starhub Career Fair 2.0. Very quickly, the Career Fair is the initiative of the Academic and Career Excellence team here at the Starhub, and it's geared towards empowering young professionals and entrepreneurs like you and myself. And the first edition was last year. We had over 1,000 people in attendance, physically and online, and we're hoping that this year we're going to have lots more testimonies of job as we did last year, right? So this is the Star Hub, like I said. This is the youth expression of Daystar Christian Center. I'm seeing new faces. I hope we have new members amongst us today. Also, this promises to be really fun, and of course, we're going to have lots of testimonies today, right? Okay, so the Star Hub is the Youth Church of Daystar Christian Center, like I said, and we have a vision which is to raise young people to be role models in the society. So if you'd like to shine, like we always say in our church, you are in the right place, right? So without further ado, I'd just like us to do something very quickly. So remember, we're here. I'm sure a lot of us have our CVs here. We want a job. Some people are still in school. Maybe you want to get an opportunity to have internship opportunities, right? Right? Okay, so some of us want to hear from our speakers. We want to learn one or two things about career progression. So I would advise us not to be shy. Interact with whoever is sitting next to you. Like we always say, you don't know who's sitting next to you, and you don't know, how they're going to help you one way or another. So I'd like us to take out our smartphones, for as many that have one. Bring out your smartphone and take a photo with whoever is sitting next to you. Bring out your smartphone, take a picture with who is sitting next to you, and don't just keep it on your phone. Please make sure to post it on social media with the hashtag the Starhub Career Fair. And you can also tag us on Instagram and all our social media platforms, _Starhub. I'm not seeing anyone taking out their phones. Please take out your phone. Thank you. Take out your phone and take a photo with whoever is sitting next to you. Post it on social media. Tag us at the _Starhub with hashtag the Starhub Career Fair. All right. So very quickly, I want us to do something. So I need just two people, two volunteers, preferably male and a female. Anyone? Okay, so this is the part where I randomly just go into the crowd and pick someone, right? So I have a very simple question for us. So if you had, I was talking about networking and not being shy, feeling free to speak, because, this is a place where we have lots of people on ground who are, power-packed and have opportunities for us. So you don't want to miss out. You don't want to be distracted. You want to pay attention. So the question is, if you had 10 seconds to talk to Bill Gates, what would you say to him? If you had 10 seconds to talk to Bill Gates, if he was in this room, what would you say? So take this as a preparation for what you're going to do when you get to talk to the exhibitors. We have lots of exhibitors here. We have Kuda, we have Ernst & Young, we have Recruit Consulting, Colored Spaces, and also there is a job opportunity for Colored Spaces. That's the role of an accountant and also a business intelligence analyst role. So, I mean, we're here for serious business. That's just my emphasis towards this morning. So anyone, would you like to come up? Can we please put our hands together for her as she comes up? Let's make it louder. It takes courage to come in front of Bill Gates and, pitch your career. Thank you.
10 seconds.
Yes, if you had 10 seconds, what would you say to Bill Gates?
Honestly, since I'm still in school, I probably can't work for him or anything. But what I would say would be, I want to learn. Like, maybe if he had 10 seconds.
That's fast 10 seconds.
Well, I want to learn.
You want to learn. Thank you. Please put your hands together for her. So yeah, let's be open-minded. I know a lot of us here are undergraduates, you're still in school, you're thinking, oh, maybe I can't get to work now. But trust me, we have lots of undergraduates who are doing amazing things with their talents. And it's not just about, working 9 to 5. Entrepreneurship, we have a lot of people here who are, a lot of speakers who are ready to give you all that you need today for a great experience in your career and your business. So get ready. All right, at this point, I'd like us to take the voiceover for our first speaker. And immediately after the voiceover, I'd like us to please give a very warm welcome. We like to say the Starhub welcome to our speaker. Are we ready for the voiceover?
Babashola Ayotuga is an experienced talent acquisition specialist who currently works with Jobberman Nigeria. He has proven experience in technical recruitment, talent acquisition and management, and employee engagement. He is versatile with headhunting and profiling talents for clients across various sectors: hospitality, healthcare, fintech, FMCG, engineering, finance, and telecoms at various levels: entry, mid-level, and senior, within and outside Africa. Babashola works as a recruitment consultant for notable fintech and non-fintech startups. He supported them in engaging and profiling suitable candidates in line with their culture or expectations as a business. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Babashola Ayotuga.
Sorry, let me just reaffirm this. Can you all hear me? I think I've messed with this a little. Seems like a TED Talk session. Is it clear enough? All right, so good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for, for having me. My name is Babashola, like rightly stated, and this session is just meant to run you through, sorry, excuse me. If you go there. All right. So this session is pretty much just to run you through a bit of what I know about CV writing and then how to ace interview sessions, right? So it's going to be a bit interactive, and I hope you guys will be able to learn one or two from it. But before that, most of us seems to be quite hostile. Or our facial expression seems like we had been held in traffic for like 48 hours. We should loosen up a bit. So one of the things I discovered about interview sessions is the fact that you literally need to be as calm and as peaceful with yourself as possible. It helps you express as much as you can. All right. So I'm going to have a slide here that I'll just run us through as fast as possible, and then we'll see if we can entertain questions. All right. What do we do? How do I do this? Hey guys. Okay, thank you. So who we are? So a host of us will probably be familiar with Jobberman, and if you're not, Jobberman is the top recruitment agency firm in Nigeria and then globally. I like you to use the word globally because we don't just operate here in Nigeria alone, we operate within and outside Africa, right? So what we try to do, or what we do essentially, is to ensure that the right pegs, right, are given to the right spaces or the right holes. What do I mean? Essentially, the right talents are actually made available for the right jobs out there, right? So we are like a bridge that connects both the employees, right, and then the employer, basically. And then we've been doing this for a while now, about 15 years, if I'm not mistaken. And our motto basically is performance, accountability, continuous learning, and excellence, right? Youth engagement and learning. So that's the umbrella at which I'm here. And the idea is just to ensure that each and every one of us as youth, we are being empowered, basically. Being empowered in the sense that what are the skills you should have, or what are the skills you currently have that you should develop, right? So if I'm not smiling, please let me know so I can try and smile a little bit. All right. So that's the reason why we are here. And our services include career consult, career counseling and advisory, student enrollment in training and professional development courses. If you check our website, you already find out there's a section where you can take soft skills. That's www.joboman.com if you're familiar with that. So mock interviews, yes, we'll likely be having such sessions after this particular era. Business writing, emotional intelligence training, CV writing training as well, and then soft skills training, which I shared, which I said something about. So, but before we dive straight or deeper into our session today, one of the things I would say is this. Most times, right, I have had a course to interview candidates, especially entry-level guys. And one of the things I discovered is we oftentimes free jet even before you have the session. Do you understand? And this is why majority of us feel like interviews are actually war zones or territory zones where it's a do or die affair. Majority of the time, we find it, I discovered that most of us find it like, if you don't impress them, you're likely not going to get a job. Yes, don't get me wrong. You need to sell yourself, right, better. Like, you need to sell yourself in a way that the interviewer will be able to just address you and then most likely engage you or profile you for the role. But either ways, you're likely going to be having a conversation with humans until AI, artificial intelligence, take full space, where you now be having interactions with robots. So they are both humans like yourself. The only difference therein is that they seem to have more experience, right, in the space you're currently vying for than yourself. But then it doesn't take away the fact that it's still blood and water that runs or flows through them. So what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is, the first level of conversations you'll be having with people, you need to first of all discover your own self. What is your self-awareness? What exactly, or who exactly are you? Do you understand? And what this thing has done for me as a person, I'll use myself as a case scenario, is that it helps you know what to work on. It helps you leverage on your strengths more than your weaknesses. Do you understand? I understand that majority of us here might be undergraduates or freshly out of secondary school. I feel like this is actually the very first stage for you to find your self-awareness. It sounds typically mundane, like it sounds like the regular word that you see out there, self-awareness. But then if you ask deeply, you realize that some of us are actually very good with Tunde. I don't know, for the sake of our conversation, Tunde is able to convince Yinka to go with a particular idea, more than the way Yinka will be able to persuade Tunde. One of the self-awareness therein is the fact that Tunde can end up becoming an investment analyst or an investment banker, right? If he's able to develop himself. Why? Because he's able to sell, he's able to actually develop, he's able to tell you, this is what I think is achievable or attainable. Do you understand? So self-awareness really goes a long way. Speak to yourself, ask yourself questions like, okay, what exactly are my strengths, or what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses? How do I develop those strengths, right, to be at the forefront of my conversations going forward? That's where the internal self-awareness comes in. I feel like the internal self-awareness is actually the major part where you need to focus on. What you speak into yourself determines what you give out. It's like a garbage in, garbage out, right? Fine, you need to also be aware of external factors as well. So how do people perceive you? But people will not be able to perceive who you are except if you've developed who you are internally. True or false? Right? So it depends on what you speak to yourself daily. that will determine how people will then address you, essentially. So that's the internal self-awareness and then the external self-awareness. So yeah, how to overcome low self-confidence. That's the area where I talked about earlier on. You need to be at, what do I call this? As confident as possible, basically. But bearing in mind that there's a thin line between being confident and then what? Being proud. Do you understand? But then you should be as confident as possible. And then how would you develop yourself? You need to first of all identify who you are. Then you also need to read. You also need to actually do research. You need to seek knowledge areas where you can, basically. One of the things I discovered is once you learn something, you would find that there's a boost mentally. If you want to give it a try, read a book, basically. Read a book that speaks about finance. Read a book that speaks about self-development. Give yourself 2 to 48 hours after reading that book. You realize that your mental capability shifts a bit or expands a little bit, basically. So it boosts your self-confidence. There is no way someone will speak about finance, even if you're not going to go deep into it, that you would have a topic to talk about, basically. So knowledge is key. Realizing that, yes, you are who you are, irrespective of the challenges that might be out there. So self-esteem, self-talk, very, very important. Then skills to work on. So it's one thing to have self-confidence, and then it's also another thing to have the skills that are very pertinent, especially in this current workforce and revolution itself, workforce revolution. So soft skills, I would say you work on your soft skills. I would also say you work on your hard skills. Soft skills are usually innate skills, right? Skills like your good communication skills, your ability to pay attention to details. Mind you, it has nothing to do with if you are an undergraduate or a graduate. Do you understand? It is innate. It's something that you have internally. The only challenge is that most of us do not a deal breaker, but it is going to be like an advantage if at all you're able to develop that. Those are the hard skills. A degree or certificate, important, trust me. It is going to make it easier for you to access some positions so that you can basically talk when you need to talk. Do you understand? So try to get that. I'm not saying that For the sake of our conversation, minimum, at least get a BSc or a degree, your first degree, crucial. Machine operation, these are the technical things that you can learn. Computer programming for the tech boys and tech ladies that are here. Okay, so clear communication entails the 7 C's, yeah? Clear, concise, concrete, correct, coherent, complete, right, and cautious, basically. So, yeah. I feel this is the major part why we are here, pretty much. So this is your CV, your marketing tool. To be honest with you, before an interviewer even gets to talk to you, the first gateway is your CV. Do you understand? Your CV will likely determine if you would even have a cause to speak or you would be invited for a session with the interviewer. So it's essential that you see it as your marketing tool. However, please be original with your CV, right? You'd find out that some people definitely still outsource their CVs to be written by people. You don't have to doctor your CV because eventually, if you say you are proficient with Microsoft Excel, you would most likely be tested with Microsoft Excel. What if you're not? Right? But if you are, fantastic, you can actually display that on your CV, basically. So what I'm just saying is, do not say what is not, basically. And this is not just because you're a Christian, no, but because it is in the workspace. You would most likely be engaged based on what you're selling. And if you are not able to meet up to expectation, then there's a cause for alarm there. So the ATS is largely applicant tracking system. So what does it do? Basically, for some organizations, you have your ATS. What it does is it saves or reduces the turnaround time for recruitment, right? The CV, it captures your CV, takes out the major skills, requirements, what I need to see to know if you're qualified for that role itself. It's a system built, and there are lots of them. I might not be able to make mention of them. So what it does is, especially when you're making applications, right, for organizations, and then they ask you to upload your CV, right? So what that does is it would pull up your CV, pick out those keywords and key skills that are essential, basically. So for you, if you are applying for an accountant role, for instance, and then on the advert, it says you need to be experienced with Sage 50, it's an accounting tool, right? If you know you are quite versatile with that, it is important that you have your Sage 50 stated on your CV as part of your skills. Do you understand? So that when the ATS is spooling through or pulling off those that are not supposed to be there, it will not erroneously pull off yours because the Sage 50 is not there. I wish I could show you a diagram of what we use as Jobberman. That would have been able to explain deeper. So helpful tips. Another thing that I also realized is that most times, for most of us that are going to be entering the workspace fresh, and for those of us that are still undergraduate, fantastic. Your CV should not just be a generic one. Do you understand? For instance, if you're applying for, let me use the tech space. If you're applying for a back-end developer, for instance, yes, their CVs are supposed to be designed as a graphic designer, but I think that it's important that you keep it simple and precise. However, for if you want to take it a step further by indicating that these are your skills or this is what you do, you could have a link that refers us to your portfolio. Do you understand? There's a way you can have your link, it's like a URL, you can have it on your CV. So once the interviewer clicks on your CV with the cursor, you'll be able to take it to the portfolio. So it reduces the jam-packed phase of your CV, for lack of a better word. So make it simple, make it short. Only include relevant information. To be very honest with you, make it relevant. You don't necessarily have to tell us that you are the first of the family of 4 on your CV. Make it precise, make it the key relevant one. Your school, your professional experience, a career summary or your professional summary itself. Check for spelling and grammatical errors on your CV. Please do, right? I would not tell you that there is a perfect way to write it, right? Do you understand? But then one of the things that technology has done for us is that there are some softwares that you can actually use, right, to recheck your grammatical errors, basically. Learn them, go online, you would find them. There's Grammarly and the likes, basically. So we affirm that you are using the right words at the right time, basically, and then the right punctuations as well, too. And be honest, do not include jobs you did not do for false achievements. It is crucial, basically. Be honest, be as truthful as possible. Your job is your job, irrespective of the experience that you have. Okay, so how to prepare your CV for 8 years. That's the application tracking system that I said. Carefully tailor your resume to the job description every single time you apply. Per role that you're applying for, ensure that it is tailored towards the role itself. Optimize for ATS search by using those keywords. I'm a back-end developer. I use Node.js. I use PHP. I use Laravel, right? Or I'm a front-end developer. I use React Native. I use React, as the case may be. So you need to indicate those tools that you use so that when we are using them on the ATS, we're able to pull those ones that have those skills indicated, right? Keep your resume simple, yes, basically. This is like a sample of what a CV preferably should look like, right? I think we'll probably you can also do a research on them. I think we would find a way of sending this to you, just for example. It is not cast in stone. Do you understand? But it's just a template that would guide you in what are key requirements or the key skills or information that are very pertinent to your CV. All right, so basically your professional experience as a finance manager, what were you doing, what were your job responsibility, then the key achievements or key accomplishments as well too. If, for instance, a yearly budget, if you were spending as much as 1.5 billion naira every year, you're able to reduce that to maybe a 1.2 billion naira. You should indicate that. Maybe the usual turnaround time to fill a particular role is about 7 days, but then when you join, you're able to close that within 5 days. You should indicate that. Maybe if you now want to run it on a percentage level, you probably want to say an 80% reduction in expenditure, basically. So what it means is your job description indicates what you do day in, day out. Then the accomplishment, what have you been able to do, right, to reduce the cost of, to enhance productivity, right, and then reduce turnaround time, as the case may be. Then your education, let us know that this is your university. For entry-level guys, I would advise that indicate your university, right, when you started and then when you wrapped up with your university. So, for instance, you gained admission 2014 and give or take, without Nigeria doing anything wrong to your academics, you probably wrap up in a 4-year course, you do a 2018. Indicate that it was 2014 to 2018, pretty much. And your secondary school as well, to kindly indicate when to when. You don't necessarily have to add the month to understand. It helps the recruiter to also checkmate for other discrepancies as the case may be. Yes, so interview checklist. Yeah, this is also very, very crucial. Sometimes because of this age and this season where we are in, you realize that some interviews are actually done virtually and some are actually prefer to be done physically. However, either route that you're being asked to apply for your interview sessions, please note that you should hold both routes like it's still the same thing. So what do I mean? If you're being asked to come in for a virtual interview session, have it like at the back of your mind that it's a physical session, right? I've had interviews where it's a virtual interview and then you find a candidate pretty much on wrapper. Do you understand? Having a session because she's at home, basically, or she was at home then. So what it means is dress like you'd have dressed, right, if you're going physically, basically. So it registers in the mind of the interviewer that this person is prepared and this person knows what he or she wants to achieve. I know that some industries like the tech boys, they don't necessarily have to wear a suit, right? But you see them dress well, basically. So be mindful, be it physical, be it virtual. Make sure that you dress well to be addressed well, basically. This has helped me a lot because when I started off, I used to have one particular suit that I used to wear. At the point, the suits, right, no worries. Let's leave that part, pretty much. So basically, please dress well. It is very, very important because first is this, you don't want to appear to me as someone who is not particular about his appearance and you're requesting me to profile you for a role. There's every tendency that when you're going to meet my client, you'll likely still dress like somebody who is not particularly interested. Basically, make it, you know where you're driving at. You know it's eventually the salary that you want. But then let them know that you're concerned about the organization, right? That pretty much sums everything. Thank you very much. I don't know.
Can we keep clapping? That was awesome, right? You don't agree? It was. Thank you so much. Just a recap of what we've learned. The emphasis is on selling yourself, right? So I'm sure once we go ahead to meet the exhibitors, we're able to take time, with all of the things that he has said to us, this morning to sell ourselves. And one thing I just want to re-emphasize, he had talked about the need to start with your full name, your educational experience, and also your work experience, in addition with your skills. I'm sure you guys got that right. So please pay attention to that when you're going to see the exhibitors. Okay, so I'd like us to also, again, welcome our online audience. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. You may be watching in the afternoon or in the evening, wherever you are. Thank you so much for joining us online at Career Fair at the Starhub today. Also for housekeeping, in case you'd like to use the restroom is to my right, that's to your left. Just through that door to your right, there's the male and the female restroom available for your convenience. Also, if you have any questions, we have our ushers around to attend to some of your questions. They are standing just behind you in the auditorium. Also, would like you to send in your questions. I believe the link will be displayed shortly. So if you have questions, for our speakers, the link is on the screen, so you can start sending in your questions so that we can document it for the panel session. So yes, there's a question and answer session. In case you have any questions you'd like to ask, career, whatever it is, please send your question for documentation. All right. So earlier we had mentioned that we have exhibitors. I'm sure you've already seen them mounting their flyers. So there's Kuda. Can we please put our hands together for Kuda? Kuda is in the house. I'm sure everybody knows Kuda, right? Yeah. Also, Ernst & Young, EY. EY is also around. Please put your hands together for EY. EY is an accounting firm here in Lagos as well. There's Recruit Consulting. Recruit Consulting, thank you for coming. We're very excited to have you here at Career Fair. Also, we have Colored Spaces. Thank you, Colored Spaces. We see you. Thanks for joining us today. Also, there's a job opportunity for an accountant at Colored Spaces. So if you know that you're qualified to be an accountant, please get ready to have, I think, a mini interview with the exhibitors at Colored Spaces. Also, a business intelligence analyst. So just in case you don't understand what all these things mean, go online, search, make your research. And also with what you've learned in the first session, I'm sure you will have so much to offer the exhibitors when it's time to see them. All right, so we'll be moving on to receive the second speaker, and he will be speaking on volunteering and career growth.
Dama is a senior product manager at Cowrywise, a digital-first wealth management platform grooming the next wealthy generation of Africans through their products. As a product manager, Yami's experience cuts across building and managing the life cycle of B2C, B2B, API, and internal products, each aimed at delivering value to its users and driving business success. The pioneer product manager at Cowrywise, Yami laid the foundation for its product management function and continues to coordinate and oversee the team's activities. A graduate of the University of Benin, with a degree in adult education and political science, Yami is also an occasional singer/songwriter, Bible teacher, product management tutor, and mentor. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Yami Rama Ashama.
Hi. Okay, still morning. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? Can you guys hear me? Okay, you don't sound like you can hear me. How are you doing? All right, good. Okay. Yeah, so my name is Yami, and I work with Cowrie Wise. Well, you already heard of the profile, so I'm not going to bore you. And very quickly, in just next few minutes, I will speak with you on volunteering and career growth. Um, So when I put out the flyer, right, for this event, someone asked me, I'm used to people talking about career growth during career fairs, so why volunteering? And you're probably wondering, why volunteering, right? Because, I mean, not everybody likes to do something for free. Who likes to do things for free? Are you sure? Okay. But yeah, so in just the next couple of minutes, I'll walk you through why and how volunteering can actually help you towards achieving career growth. But first of all, let's just talk a bit about volunteering, or actually, let's do this. Who here has actually volunteered before? Anybody? Volunteered at, people in media, don't wave. All right, who hasn't volunteered before? Like you've never. It's fine, don't worry. We won't think that you're on. All right, so maybe, I mean, by the time we're done with this, I'm hoping that whether you're just starting out in your career or you're far gone, mid-level or advanced, whatever it is, this would propel you to actually take on volunteering and to see that there are ways that you can contribute towards your growth as an individual and just getting you on that journey that, that eventual destination that you're looking to get to. So real quick, volunteering basically is actually to do something for free. It's you offering your experience or offering your expertise or your skills and just helping people with that, right? And you're doing it pro bono, you're not charging anything. That's the quick definition of what volunteering would be. And I personally think that it's an experience that anybody should have. I think it's an experience worth having. And like I said, that's what I'm here to sell you on. All right, so moving quickly, sorry, something is, okay. All right, so while I would say that volunteering is something that you need to do, I also think that it's helpful to point out that I also think that you deserve to be paid for the work that you do, right? So I'm not here to say volunteer and just work for free all the days of your life. Money is important. I work in a wealth management company, so money is important, right? So you do deserve to be paid for the work that you do, and I think volunteering can get you there. And then I also think that volunteering can actually help you discover your skills and the value that you offer, so that when you're having the negotiation conversations, the speaker earlier talked about recruiting, right, and selling yourself, and knowing the value that you bring to the table is always, always, always very important, right? So that when you're having those conversations, you know that you're not just there to, in quote, beg for a job, but you're actually also bringing value. So as much as the company would be paying you, they're also getting something from you, and that's actually why they're going to be paying you in the first place. So that's also something that you'll get to experience with volunteering. So yeah, how does volunteering help you? The first thing I would point out is that volunteering is actually a resume builder, right? So if you're just starting out in your career, most of us here are probably seeing job adverts and descriptions, and then part of the requirement is you need to have 5+ years experience, or you need to have 3 years experience, or, you know, and so on. And you're wondering, I'm just graduating, or I just graduated, who am I supposed to get this experience from, right? Now, one of the things that we don't really talk about a lot here, and is something that has been really helpful for me, is actually volunteering. So when I was applying for my job at Cowrie Wise, before that, I had taken like a 2-year break. I wasn't working officially, so I was not in paid employment. I was volunteering for that 2-year period, right? And I was volunteering in church here. And I was working with the missions team, and then we have a department that's called the experience team. And what we do is basically plan out Sunday service experience. So what would it look like when people come into church? When they go into the bathrooms, what kind of experience do we want them to have? We would pay attention to like every single thing that would happen. So when I was putting together my CV, I took that and I basically sold it as me working with a team to ensure that our customers have the best experience when they come. That was me building out my CV with the skills that I have, right? So one of the things that you will need to pay attention to is, while volunteering would help you acquire skills, you also need to be able to connect the dots, right? So when you're volunteering in church, or volunteering at your school, or volunteering for an event, whatever it is, you need to, at the back of your mind, have an idea of how that particular skill or experience that you're gathering, how does it eventually play into what it is that you're trying to do, right? So for me, it was the skills that I had built and the experience that I'd gathered in church that I basically just leveraged and then put that on my CV to say, even though I wasn't officially employed for 2 years, I was not playing around, right? I actually still had skills that I was gathering, I had experience, and I could defend those experiences. It was not just that I was saying it for saying sake, right? I actually had value that I could offer. So volunteering is actually one way that you can help yourself gather experience, and then when you see those job roles, you're able to apply, knowing that you've actually been building skills and gathering experience over time. All right, so the second thing would be that volunteering opens you up to opportunities. Volunteering opens you up to opportunities. So one of the things that I have also seen happen with volunteering is you can be in an environment where you're offering your skills for free, and then people around you are able to recognize that, oh, this person has this skill, or this person can do this particular thing, and I need somebody to help with this, right? And then they just recommend you for it. So again, most of my volunteering experience have been in church, so most of my examples would be church. I'm a church girl, just put that at the back of your mind. All right, so I remember that while I was in church then volunteering, someone walked up to me, and I think it was Career Body that was recruiting then. Career Body should be here, I think. And then she said, oh, my friend is looking to start a company, and then they need somebody to, do X, Y, Z, blah, 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 blah. And basically it was because of, so I had worked with her in church, and she knew what I could do, right? And that was literally like an opportunity being offered to me on a platter of gold. I was not the one going to look for it. I didn't take it at the time because I actually didn't want to take on paid employment. But it was just that realization that there are certain volunteering experiences or certain places that you can go to volunteer, and then it just opens up opportunities for you, it opens up doors for you, right? So some of the things I've also done is, if I want to meet somebody, I would look for an event that the person is attending and volunteer at that event. And then I'll use that as an opportunity to meet the person. Because let's face it, so if, let's say Dangote or Otedola is someone you want to meet, right? Most likely, the people who are volunteering at the back end are going to have an opportunity to meet him a lot easier than the rest of us who are in the audience, right? So sometimes that's one strategy that I just employ. If I really want to meet somebody, I will look out for an opportunity to volunteer at an event that they will be attending or they will be speaking, and then just plug my way into that, right? Or another example would be that if I'm trying to gain experience so that I can get opportunity in a particular thing, so say for instance, I want to meet more top tier people, right? Just look out for events that people like that will be attending. I can decide to sell myself to someone and say, oh, for the events that you're having, can I come on board and moderate the sessions that you'll be having with these speakers, right? These are basically things that volunteering can do for you. So as much as, in a sense, you're offering your services for free, there's also still something that you're getting, right? So just think of opportunities that you will want to have, and then you can actually use volunteering as a way to get you there. All right, volunteering grows your network. So I strongly believe that one of the greatest gifts God has given to us is actually people, right? So you volunteer, and for every single person who has volunteered, I'm sure that you can testify to the fact that you've met amazing people along the way, that if you find yourself in a bind, or if you find that you need something, you can easily scroll through and say, I think I can reach out to this person and they'll be able to help me out, or I can, tell this person that I need X, Y, Z, and they'll be able to do just help me out in some way. Personally, that's my experience. Volunteering actually grows your network. It helps you meet people that would turn out to be really, really useful in your journey, right? So it's either they are the ones recommending you for job opportunities, or they are the ones allowing you know when there are openings in certain places, because there are times when organizations would be recruiting and they don't always put out the word, right? You just suddenly hear that they've recruited for this role and you're like, I've been waiting for this company to hire since. When did they hire? When did they fire? How did we get here, right? So growing your network is actually also one benefit that you get from volunteering, because you get to meet people, you get to just build that shared experience. And if you're an introvert who going for events naturally, and speaking with people is not something that you enjoy doing, then that can also be a way that you actually just get to meet people, because there's less pressure, right? You would have to interact with them anyway because you're working with them. So it can be an opportunity to just ease yourself into that process of networking and getting to meet new people, getting to learn from them and just have them in your network, and then you're able to give value, get value, everybody's happy. All right. The fourth thing I would say is volunteering helps you with skill discovery. It also helps you with skill acquisition and then with sharpening your skills. Now, this is what I'm saying, and I think this is the biggest thing that I've seen play out for me personally. Within that 2 years period when I wasn't working in paid employment, I had an experience where, so I figured, since I'm not working, right, I knew that if I was going to go back to paid employment, I have to explain what I was doing in those 2 years. So I also had to be very, very deliberate, right, about the time that I had in my hand. And at that point in time, I picked an interest in helping people build blogs on WordPress. Actually, no, I wanted to start blogging. That was where I started from. I just wanted to blog and write. And then while I was doing it, my friend pointed out that you seem to have a skill set for this thing, right? Like you'll be able to actually do this thing and get people to pay you for it. And then I don't know if I'll say foolishly or wisely mentioned to her that I felt like I wanted to reach out to somebody and offer to help them build their blog. Now, I told her that in the hope that she would say, don't do it, you are not good enough. But she pushed me into actually reaching out and telling the person that I want to help them build out their blog. So I took that step, and then in the process of doing it, at some point it felt like I just made the biggest mistake of my life because I did not know what I was doing. But it was a really stretching experience, right? And going through that process was actually what led me into my journey in tech today, right? It was working on that blog, having to do some CSS tweaks. So I dabbled a bit in front-end development and then realized that was not for me, so I left that. And then I went into product design, because while I was working on blogs for people, I also realized that most people didn't know what they wanted to do. And instead of working on something for, say, 2 weeks, 3 months, we're still not sure where we're going. Like, I don't have all this time. So I went into product design to figure out how I could help people have an understanding of what they wanted to do. And then in product design, I realized that I was more interested in the UX bit than in the UI bit. Long story short, now I'm in product management, right? So it was that experience of volunteering to help someone with something that helped me also realize the skills that I had, right? So it was a self-discovery journey for me in the long run. And then something else that happened for me within that period was while I was in church. So I've always known that I could sing, right? But I never really took it as anything. And I remember someone composing or writing a song, and then he just dropped it on my table and said, make something out of this. I'm like, how? What? have you seen me compose a song before? But it was in doing that that I actually realized that I could write songs, I could compose songs, there was a whole lot more to me than I knew at that time, right? And all of that were just a factor of me being where I was at that point in time. If I was probably doing something else, I may not have discovered those things. Maybe I would, I don't know, but that's my journey, right? in volunteering that I've had the opportunity of really getting to find my skills, getting to discover myself, and then even also getting to just improve on the skill sets that I have. So if for no reason at all, I would say embrace volunteering for this, right? Especially when you're just leaving school. When I have the opportunity to speak with people, I always say that when you're just leaving school, don't be in a hurry to commit to like one role. I'm a firm believer in exploring, right? And volunteering gives you that opportunity to do so. Now, I know that the reality of life will probably not be the same thing for everybody, but if you have that opportunity or if you have that free rein to just explore, that's what I would advise you to do. And that's something that volunteering would help you with, right? So volunteer if there's something that you're passionate about, but you're not exactly sure if it's what you want to be doing for the long haul, then just volunteer, right? Nobody's paying you for it. Of course, it doesn't mean you should do a shoddy job, but there's no pressure that you have to compulsorily deliver. And people are a lot more patient with volunteers and a lot more patient with wanting to help you learn and grow into whatever it is that you need to do, as opposed to if you're a paid employee. I need results, that's what I'm paying you, right? So you can use volunteering as a way to just help you explore and discover yourself and then sharpen whatever skill sets you have. And yeah, volunteering expands your area of influence and impact. Now, this is one that I'm currently learning, and I feel like I'm in that phase of. When you, especially if you're in like need to like advanced level in your career, I think it becomes very easy to start to think that career growth is something that's just linear, right? So you're currently maybe a junior developer at work, and then the next thing is for you to become a senior developer, and then maybe a tech lead, and so on and so forth. But what I'm starting to learn is I can actually think of my growth beyond the walls of my office. So I'm not limited to growing in my career just within the hierarchy that we have at work, right? So what you can also start to look at is, where else can I offer my skills that would help me achieve that, that will help me expand in my area of influence and impact? Because that's really what growth is about, right? Growth is that you're able to, so if you were initially just commandeering this section, you're able to, be responsible for a lot more, right? And volunteering can actually help you with that. So for me, that would look like mentoring other people. So looking beyond my work environment to say, who else is interested, or how else can I contribute, how else can I make an impact, how else can I influence people, and then ultimately help me achieve that growth that I'm looking to achieve, right? There are people who have moved on, in their career work, and it was probably because they were doing something outside of their immediate work environment. Now, the things that I do in my office, you don't know about it, right? If I don't come out and say, this happened or that happened, or if we don't have like conversations, there's a limit to what I can share in that instance. But when I go outside of that work environment and then I'm engaging people outside of work, there's a lot more people to help me tell my story, help push me out there, and then ultimately help me achieve the growth that I want to achieve. So don't just think of volunteering as something that you get to do when you're starting out. It can actually also be beneficial for you if you are in your mid or advanced level and then you're trying to grow. And yeah, so just to wrap it up, so how do you leverage volunteering, right? I've talked about why you should embrace volunteering and how it can help you grow as a career person, but how exactly do you leverage it? So the first thing is start from your immediate environment, right? So I said for me, it has been church, and that's because that's mostly where I spend my time in. But yours might not necessarily be that, right? So I've also volunteered in organizations outside of church, right? And there are so many not-for-profit organizations out there. They tend to depend a lot on volunteers, and the work that they do is impactful, so you can also leverage that. So start from your immediate environment, go online, look for events that are in line with whatever it is you're trying to achieve, and then volunteer for those events. And then the second thing is be strategic. So don't just say, Yami has said volunteer, so let's volunteer away. You actually have to be strategic. Because remember what I said about building your resume and being able to connect the dots. You don't want to just have skills for the sake of having skills, right? You actually need to be able to sell yourself and sell the value that those skills will bring to anybody that you're offering them to. So when you're volunteering, be strategic about it. What's the career goal or vision that you have? Where do you see yourself? I know we don't like to say it, but where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where do you see yourself in 3 years? Or even in 1 year, right? You can start from short term and then move into the long term. But have that at the back of your mind and let that guide how you're thinking of your volunteering experience, the things that you're going after, right? What's the goal? And then just be strategic about where you volunteer. And the final thing that I will say is don't max yourself out. Again, because you're doing things for free, it can be very easy to just keep doing and you don't remember to pause and catch a break, right? And just breathe. So if you're working in paid employment, there's probably leave, or somebody would tell you, oh, I think you need to go on a break, right? Someone would most likely mention it. But when you're volunteering, it's very possible that nobody remembers to tell you that you need to catch a break. You're probably the first person who is responsible for yourself. So I would say don't max yourself out. As much as it's good to be helpful, it's good to do things for free, it's good to offer value, it's also very important that you remember to catch a break, right? And if you've been volunteering and you decide that, you know what, this year I'm maybe not doing it, or for the next 3 months I'm not doing it, it's fine. Nobody's gonna die. You need to catch your breath, right? So don't max yourself out. That's the last thing I will say. And yeah, that's everything in a nutshell. So embrace volunteering, guys.
Let's keep clapping for Yami. Thank you very much. That was very insightful. So who's volunteering at the Starhub after today? Wow. Okay, awesome. So just a recap of what she has said. Volunteering can actually put you up for opportunities, and I can attest to that personally. I remember starting off as, no skill, out of school, after NYSC, and I also started volunteering in church because, this is where I spend most of my time, aside from my home. So volunteering in church helped me realize other things that I can do. As a matter of fact, hosting as well, I started from here. So you don't want to just sit down and think there's nothing to you at all. There is something to you, and you can actually bring that out when you put yourself up for volunteering. If there's a need anywhere, you want to get up and put yourself in that position to volunteer, right? Okay, so we have other exhibitors in the house, and please welcome with me Kauri Wise. I'm sure we heard that Yami works with Kauri Wise. She's a product manager at Kauri Wise. Also, we have Collard Gray Consulting. Yes, you can put your hands together for them. We have Alan and Grant. Let's keep clapping. Thank you for joining us today. We have Paragon Signature and Associates Limited as well. Also, we have some job opportunities at Colored Spaces for a graphics design executive and also a graphics design intern also at Colored Spaces. I can see some people smiling. They're like, yes, that's mine. Well, I'm sure there's something for everyone. So I have a quick question for us. Do you believe that work-life balance is possible and why? And I can remember, my team and I were talking about this just yesterday at a town hall meeting. Do you believe that work-life balance is possible, and why do you think so? We mentioned earlier that there's a link for you to send in your question. Please, can we project the link so that everyone can send in their question? So we're hoping that you have some questions in that area. All right. So to welcome our next speaker, his name is King Lawal, and he will be speaking to us about career excellence, thriving in the workspace, and work-life integration.
King Davidson Lawal is a Christian, a J-Star member, husband, father, resource person, and financial services expert. He's the managing director of Nomisma Olive Nigeria Limited, a loans and investments firm with a vision of helping people of various walks of life fulfill their financial needs and goals with ease. He is very happily married to Yewande Adeola King Lawal, and their union is richly blessed with 2 children, Erica and Dexter King Lawal. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome King Davidson Lawal.
Good afternoon, everybody. How are we all doing today? Let's wake up some. It's afternoon now. How are we all doing today? Yeah, I'm sure we have enjoyed the last 2 sessions a lot. I'd like for us to give a round of applause for the speakers. A terrific one. I can't cite the second speaker right now. Oh, all right. Okay, so I'm going to be talking about career excellence, thriving in the workplace, and I'm not going to be using a slide because I want to try and see how, we can make it a little more engaging. Okay, is that okay? All right. So there's certain areas I'm going to be touching on. There's this thought that occurred to me some time ago about excellence. We're going to be looking at 3 things here. We talk about, let's just call the something together again. Career excellence, let's say that together, please. And then thriving in the workspace and work-life balance. Also, we pick them one by one. There's this thought that holds in my head all the time when it comes to organizational success. If you find yourself working in a place or you dream to work in a place, and it goes thus: the collective character, vision-mindedness, intelligence, and diligence of a people or an organization will ultimately determine their success in every way. I go over it one more time. The collective character, please take note. The collective character, 1, 2, vision-mindedness, 3, intelligence, and 4, diligence of a people or an organization will ultimately determine their success in every way. That goes to say, and how does an organization succeed? Can someone help? How do you think an organization succeeds? If you have 10 people working in an organization, how do you accomplish the corporate success, the cumulative success of that organization? Okay? I'll go out with that. The success of a 10-people organization is determined by the success of each person in that organization. So if 10 people are in an organization, right, it goes to say that the success of each individual in that organization will determine the cumulative success of that organization. Is that correct? There is this saying that goes and says that a chain is only as strong as what? Oh, don't we read? A chain is only as strong as what? As its weakest link. A chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So let's try and quickly define these terms. The first one we're going to define is excellence. The second is thriving. And the third is integration. It says work-life balance, work-life integration. Okay. Now, the first one there is excellence. Okay, a simple definition of excellence is the quality of being outstanding or extremely good. The quality of being outstanding or extremely good. If I quickly add something, excellence is a difference. Excellence is the difference between did you pass and what did you score. Excellence is the difference between did you pass and what did you score. How many of us are students here? Maybe 300 level, 200 level? Oh, good. Now, we need to understand this because the greater majority of people are rather in pursuit of just getting by. We have not really encapsulated or embraced the real concept of excellence. And we need to understand this, excellence. Let's say it together, excellence. Excellence is being exceptionally good. Now, you need to ask yourself that question. If you were to weigh yourself right now, let me take us back to school. You know, those times in school when we have maybe a test, a little test or assignment or classwork or something, and then the teacher comes into the class and tells us to exchange our books. How many of you experienced that? Okay, so they say exchange your books. So you exchange your books, and then if you're lucky, you exchange with somebody who is your friend, who likes you, right? And then when you exchange, maybe you made a little error. You wrote 3, but you didn't put kg there. You know, your friend helps you to add the kg, and then they mark you. But let's assume it's some guy that you stepped on their toes on the assembly ground, or a guy that you and them are at absolute perpetual, eternal beef. What happens? Even if you wrote the kg, and then the G didn't look like G enough, what's that guy going to do? Yeah, and you can argue from now till forever. So what we usually look for is that we look for the person, right, who we feel is going to be more favorably disposed to us, and we pass our books to them so that they can. So at the end of the day, you know, you score better. Now, what am I trying to say? At the end of the day, you cannot really say with that system whether somebody scored excellently well or not, because there was an external factor there. The factor of whether the other person likes you or does not like you. But when we are talking about original real-time excellence, this is the thing about original excellence. That is, no matter, take note now, no matter the condition that you are made to go through, no matter the parameters with which you are judged, right? No matter you find out. Let me give an instance. I can mention this. We all know in the artistic whatever. We all know Burna Boy, right? We all know Burna Boy, right? How many of us like his personality? That guy is rude. He's caustic. Is that not correct? Very proud. Very egotistical. But how many of you follow him on maybe Instagram or other stuff? You still listen to his music? You still feel proud when you see Burna Boy sold out a show in so and so place? Is that correct or not? Now, why? Why do you still get interested in somebody whose personality is almost is so terrible? The reason is because excellence cannot be denied. Excellence cannot what? Be denied. If you are that good, it will show. There's a quote that says that original people or people of quality are hard to find but easy to recognize. People of quality are hard to find, but what? Easy to recognize. So I was making an illustration earlier, and I said excellence is the difference between did you pass and what did you score. Because growing up, most people, when they pass through school, their concentration for the most part is on not failing. There's a quote that says, do not join the cautious crowd. Are we still all here? Do not join the cautious crowd that plays not to lose. Rather, play to win. See the play of words there. The cautious crowd does what? Plays not to lose. Rather, do what? Play to win. Now, if you watch a regular football match, you find out that there are two things there. The first is that you must make a move to score, And at the same time, you must ensure that you are defending yourself against the opposing team from scoring from you. In your goal. Now, the issue is that if you lean so much on one and you neglect the other, you're going to have a problem. Let's assume, for example, that, the coach tells the players, when you get there, all your concentration should be on goals. We must score at least 10 goals today. We must score at least 15 goals today. And then they're pushing out, and they neglect the defense. You find out that if there's a counter or anything, what happens? The other team can easily do what? Can easily score, because the concentration was on one hand as against the other. I'm still going to come to this when it comes to the subject of balance. So we're talking about what did you score versus did you pass? Let me ask you honestly, when you were in school, or if you're in school now, whenever you are going to, you study for a course, you're writing an exam or whatever, is your concern about passing, or what did you score? That's important. How many people would say it's about passing? Honest. All I ask. How many people will say your concern is about passing? Come on. Let's interact. Okay, how many people will say my concentration is about what did you score? Okay, let me tell you a little thing. When we were in school, if you were one of the brilliant ones, there were always two categories of people when they release results for an exam or test, and they bring it out. So you find out some who are just like, they just want to see that they scored enough to pass. They just want to see that they scored enough to pass. And so once they say, thank God, thank God, they are not even going to ask the next person, what did you score? But you have some, they see their result, and they look at it, 64 over 70, or 94 over 100. And they are not content to just walk away. They are asking the person, the other guy that they know who is also a FUE, and they're asking, what did you score? Now, the guy scored 94. At that moment, he is happy, right? Ecstatic. The moment he hears from the second person, I scored 96, what happens? He's crestfallen. In his eyes, he has what? He has failed. He has failed in his eyes. And then you're going to see another guy who scored, now 94% is already feeling like a failure. And you see another guy who scored 65%, and he's like, thank you, Jesus. I'll share testimony in church on Sunday. So between the two of them, who is the excellent one? Who is the excellent one? Come on, you don't have to whisper. Who is the excellent one? 94 is the excellent one, right? Now, why is it that the one who scored 65 was happy, was thinking of sharing a testimony in church on Sunday, and the one who scored 94 is crestfallen and down? Now, if they keep at it, they said godliness with contentment is great. Why is that 94% guy not contented? Well, if we're looking at it from the positive angle, it is because the guy is pursuing after excellence. Let's say excellence. Now we're getting to the nitty-gritty of it. Let's say excellence. Now, you must understand that, excellence is so critical. How much value you are. You know that price is a function of value, right? Price is a function of what? Of value. If you put so much work into yourself, developing your excellence, that gives you a very high vocational chance. Are you getting my point? I was discussing with some people at the office the other day, some 2 days ago, and I was saying that there seems to be this idea that for you to get into an admission into school, most times people say the general knowledge is that it doesn't depend on what you score in JAMB or post-JAMB or whatever. It's really based on who you know, right? Now, how many of us believe that? So I was now throwing out the argument to them. And I said, as much as this is partly true, it is not completely true. And I said, there are still people, I'm sure there will be some of us here, who got their admission, who get their admission without knowing anybody. They scored so excellently well that the university or institution wanted them. Is that correct or not? If you are that good, I was talking about Burna Boy the other time, and then you want to have a show. You don't like the way he talks. You don't like the way he behaves. But if you want to pull the crowd, you want to get something, what have you, you will bring him in, yes or no? Even though you don't like him, but you're going after excellence. What am I trying to say? If you inculcate the culture and nature of excellence, you're going to find out that irrespective of the condition or circumstance, you are going to thrive. Say, I will thrive. Say, I will thrive. Now, I don't know how many of us who said we are the 94% people or the 65% people, but you know in your heart whether it is the truth or not. There's a particular joke I'll share with you. It said some boys were gathered around a dog, a puppy, beautiful puppy dog, and maybe a chihuahua or something. And they were gathered around, the teenage boys were gathered around, and they were all, arguing and doing all of that. And a pastor comes walking by. And as he was walking by, he came to them and said, what are you guys doing around this dog? And I said, well, we're having a contest. We're having a debate. Whoever is able to tell the biggest lie is the one who will take the dog home. So we have been trying all the while. Nobody has been able to succeed at that as yet. So the pastor went on a 10 minutes message, 10 minutes sermon to them how you should never lie. Bible says you should not lie. All liars this and all of that. And then the pastor ends the sermon, 10-minute sermon, by telling them that since I was born, I have never ever told a lie. So all the boys got quiet. After some seconds, one of them just said, you know what, forget it. Give the dog to this man. All right, let's go on. Now, I've talked about excellence, right? We'll put it together later. Now, the next one is thriving. To thrive means to grow or develop well. To grow or develop well. Now, I add here, thriving is the difference between are you moving and how far have you gone? Are you moving or how far have you gone? Which one would you like to ask yourself per time? Is it I am moving or I have gone this far? How many of you have a clear-cut, definite plan, vision for where you see yourself, say, in the next 5 years? How many of us? Defined, clear, not guesswork. Please, if you're raising your hand, keep it raised. Keep it raised. Okay, thank you. How many of us have a clear-cut, definite plan for where you see yourself in the next 2 years? Now, I'm not talking about the fact that it's already practical, but you have, a sort of vision already. How many of us? Not many. The importance of having a clear vision for your life is the fact that where you cannot see yourself getting to, if care is not taken, you may not eventually get there. Are you following what I'm saying? And where everything is about distance. Let me give you an instance. If you wanted to go from here this morning now, how many of us encounter some traffic coming down here? Some heavy traffic? Good. Now, the thing is this. How many of you had to maybe check the Google map to give you an idea of what the traffic situation is? So if you left, for example, you left where you're coming from, it's supposed to take you like 45 minutes, and you have no idea. You just calculate in your head that, okay, if I leave around this time, I'll get to where I'm going around so time. And then when you get on the road, traffic plus this, plus that, and all of that, at the end of the day, you find out that you didn't get there on time. Not because you didn't want to, not because you were not moving, but you were not really gauging how fast you have to go, the motion you have to take to be able to get there. Am I making some sense? Say, I will thrive. Say, I will thrive. Okay. Thriving is the difference between are you moving or how far have you gone. Then integrate, it's combining one thing with another to form a whole. Combining one thing with another to form a whole. A guy went for an interview. I was hearing about CVs the other time. A guy went for an interview in a place, and they were asking him some questions. And then they asked him a particular question, how old are you? He said, I'm 25 years old. And then they asked him another question, where do you see yourself 5 years from now? And the answer the guy gave. It's a funny one. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? He said, 30. That's all. That's all. Is that excellent? Is that excellent? Come on. Can we wake up a little bit here? Can we wake up a little bit here? Please, help me tap 2 people around you and tell them you must be excellent. Come on, tell them you must be excellent. I need you to understand this fact, that there's a particular quote that says that no one ever gave his best to what he was doing. No one ever did excellent work and regretted it. It is not possible for you to be that excellent. We're talking about thriving in the workplace. If you're not yet working now, you will soon someday. One of the concerns I had when I saw this subject was the fact that in Nigeria, the percentage of workplaces where you will be and you'll be comfortable and you will feel fulfilled is relatively low if we're going to be realistic. That's correct? Yeah. If we want to take a census of people who are working across various companies and all of that, we find out that a big portion, a greater percentage of them are working in places and they are not really comfortable. They are not really feeling alive. They're just trying to manage. They're just trying to cope. And so when you're talking about thriving in the workplace, you hear this kind of motivation. When you get to job, the work, you must give your best. You must be excellent. You must be astonishing. And then somebody is asking on top of how much? Give your best. You must be diligent. You must be this. And they'll be bellowing on and on and on. The question, some years ago, I was talking at a place. It was a hotel. And then I went to talk to the whole staff, a big hotel and all of that. And then I started talking. I was new to communicating then. And I felt I had something so well gathered. And I was going on and on with them. You've got to give your best. You've got to do this. You've got to do that, telling them the qualities of a good employee and all of that. And those people were looking at me like I was talking to the wall. And then they were just not moved. Some of them were even looking at me like they were angry with me. Yeah, and I was concerned. What's going on? I don't know what moved me to just strike out a conversation. And then one of them just blurted out that all these things you are saying, all these qualities, is it on this salary that we are collecting? In the middle of the talk, one of the supervisors or whatever excused themselves. So it was only the staff that were there. So they felt free to talk. So when they told me that, I got this call. So I had to change my tactics that day and start talking about something else. Now, why did I mention this? We're talking about thriving. It's not that easy to thrive without, is that not correct? Yeah. When you have this, you can really thrive easily. And sometimes the reward you get, because we talk about factors of production, we talk about land, labor, capital, and the entrepreneur. The reward for land is what? Rent. The reward for labor is wages or salary. And when you think about the reward, it determines how much labor a person is willing to put in. If the reward is not heavy, it's a discouraging factor. So it's going to bring us to the place of motivation. That's important. Let me tell you this. Your life is your own. Where you're going is your personal prerogative first and foremost. Where you are today may not be where you will be tomorrow. Right? For some of us, where you were yesterday is not exactly where you are today. But I'm going to tell you that it is not the circumstance that makes you thrive. It is not necessarily just the conditions of where you're working or where you will work that makes you thrive. It is the substance that you have on the inside of you that makes you thrive. Take note of this, because it's very important. If you do not have a personal, on the inside of you, Zig Ziglar made a quote. Zig Ziglar said, when obstacles arise on the way to your goal, change your direction and not your decision. Change your direction and not your decision. When obstacles arise on the way to reaching your goal, change your direction and not your decision. Thriving in the workplace. How many of us here are presently employed or were in an internship? Please let me see the hands if you're presently. You're working. I have my team there. We're presently working somewhere. How many of us here are satisfied with where we're working? How many of us are not that satisfied with where we're working? If your employer is not here, you are free to raise your hand. And you may be concerned that they may be viewing online. We will say it was a joke that we were trying to. We say it was a joke, so, So a good number of us are not satisfied. So now, if I want to tell you about excellence in the workplace, can I use an illustration? Thank you, please come. So, we're talking about, let's clap for it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. So, she's not, oh, I'm putting you on the spot now. Do you mind? No. You don't? Oh, good. Okay, so she's working somewhere right now. And she's not, you're not necessarily that pleased. Yeah. It can be better, yeah. So what factor, what's the major factor that makes it not that palatable?
So it's an internship.
Okay.
And first of all, the workplace, I'm working with a lot of older people.
Okay.
So when you have a young person trying to give some sort of opinion, it seems like, you don't have the experience, you don't have this, you never want to listen. And the fact that there's a whole lot of eye service where I work, so, but the experience is very necessary. When you're done, you say it's like, oh, I've worked in this kind of place. But the environment itself is not all that.
It's not encouraging.
It's not
It has
encouraging.
nothing to do with this.
Oh, we don't even get paid, so.
Oh, okay, yes. Some internships, they give them
Yeah.
stipends or something.
But here, you don't get paid.
You don't get
get
paid.
the experience.
Okay, so that's one. Okay, can I have one more person come to? Thank you. Please let's put a hand together. Can I have one more person come? I'd like to just interrupt. Can I have one more volunteer come tell us why? Please come. You're presently employed? Okay, come around. Share your experience. It's still fine. Thank you. Tell us your name?
My name is Amos Tolulope Michael.
Amos Tolulope Michael. Okay. So tell us about what you're doing right now. It's not so.
I'm a home lesson tutor and also an athlete marketer. So based on what I do as a tutor, if a client wants their student or their child to be lectured or to be taught some certain art subject, so I volunteer and they pay me. And also as an athlete marketer, you have your products online, your courses online, so anyone that have interest in it, you pay, like they pay the money, then you get a commission from the company you're working for.
Okay, so what's it about what you're doing presently that's not?
About
I wouldn't call that self-employed really. Am I right? That's not necessarily self-employed. You're still working for people. It's like a contractual kind of employment. Okay.
Actually, what I'm not satisfied is about the kind of time limitation. Like you're always on the run, like something like the 9 to 5 stuff that I always. So it's kind of choky. Like there's no more freedom to able to schedule your time. Some customers will like say, okay, come by this time, and you get there, and they'll later say, no, we are not available. So
really?
that's kind of part of this thing. And also sometimes they can be very funny sometimes. So let me just
Let's define funny. Let's define funny.
Like if you are
I wouldn't mind if we can have just 2 more people. So if you're going to volunteer, please.
If you are kind of trying to suggest something to them, like maybe concerning their student or concerning their child, they will like kind of, how should I put it? Like interrupt it and something like that. They will not like to agree with.
Hope it's not that you want to.
No, no, sir. So
right.
that's just basically.
All right, thank you. Let's clap for him. Okay, we still have, okay, I'll take one person here, one person here. Please try to make it brief, right? Yeah. Let me quickly tell us something about, I'll quickly tell us a joke about managing circumstances and understanding that sometimes while we're complaining about something, right, there's always a counter to it. So there was this teenage guy who started driving. He learned how to drive and he got to know how to drive. So he goes to meet his dad and said, I can drive now, Dad. Can I borrow your car and, go for a ride sometimes? The dad said, well, fair request. I will give you my car to drive it on the following conditions. Number 1, you make sure your grades go up in school. Number 2, you read your Bible every day. How many of us read our Bibles every day? And number 3, you cut your hair. The guy obviously had probably overgrown hair and all of that. So after some time, the guy comes back to his dad and said, yeah, I've met your conditions now. Can I take the car and drive now? And the dad says, oh, well, you've gotten your grades up, you're reading the Bible now, but your hair, you've not cut it. And the guy said, well, I've been looking at that and thinking about it, and I realized that Moses had long hair. Samson in the Bible had long hair. Even Jesus had long hair. And the dad said, well, you're very right, but notice that they trekked wherever they were going to. So if you're going to have a car, you're going to have to do what? Cut your hair. Okay, I'll tell you what that means in a bit. The young lady there? Okay, please. Let's make it quick, please. Let's clap for her. We're talking about thriving in the workplace. This lady here has talked about age disparity as a concern. Please come, please come. Age disparity as a concern. He talked about managing the clients that you're dealing with. Sometimes you're not the one controlling your schedule. They are controlling your schedule, and they don't care how you feel, about it. These are things. Because one of the things I realize is that you cannot just push people, right? You cannot just, how, what's the name of this guy in the Bible? Balaam. He was riding on a donkey when Balak told him to come curse the Israelites. And the donkey got to a place and didn't move anymore because there was an angel with a sword, saying you're not. And then he pushed and pushed, and the donkey wouldn't move. That's the scenario sometimes with some people. You want to push them to do better. But when the conditions are very, 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 very unfavorable, what do you do? So let's hear from her. What's the name and what do you do?
My name is Magdalene.
Magdalene.
Yes.
What do you do right now?
I work in a boarding school as the hostel mistress, hostel manager.
You're looking sleepy. It's obvious the kind of thing you do. It's night and day.
Okay.
Can we hear her, or should she add some more volume? Okay.
Okay. The reason why I'm not satisfied with the job, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Some of the reasons why I'm not satisfied fully with the job is it actually does not give much time. I'm let me call myself a young hostel manager. Does not give much time and
much time
yes.
for the guy, or
Not
just clarify.
then secondly,
You didn't
at my
clarify the
place-
much time. We need to know what that much time is all about. Am I right? Yeah. That's how we can understand. Don't mind my joke and all of that.
okay, much time for myself and yes, for
Oh, now you're talking.
and again, secondly, he keeps, or let me say my boss keeps bringing work upon work. Like when
The
you're
workload is
asked
much.
to do something,
We don't
you
have
won't
much time
finish
on
it.
that.
You would keep on bringing more, and we end up not achieving anyone. And thirdly, in fact, it's much, but
Thank you, thank you. Unfortunately, we won't be able to have any other one. Can we return this? Let's clap for them, please. Let's clap for them. We need to close. If I'm getting that right, it's telling me that my time is up. Okay. Now, let's put all of this together. We call the topic together. I couldn't cover up to even half of what we planned, but it's imperative that we are able to hold something practical. I don't just want to lecture us, just talk, and then we get out of here. I want us to feel motivated, right? So let's talk the title together so we wrap this up quickly. Career excellence. Let's say that together. Thriving in the workplace or workspace, the same thing, and work-life integration. Now, if you hear all the things that they said, you find out that they're mentioning the common challenges that people face, that we face when it comes to being able to thrive and do things the way we have to. It doesn't matter how much of a rush you're in to get somewhere. You find out that if a trailer decides to block the road and there's no other place, and you really have to get to where you're going badly, let's even assume you're taking a patient in an ambulance somewhere and there's no other alternative route, you will end up not being able to get to where you're going because of that obstruction, right or wrong. That says just one thing, and I close. Just one thing. You need to work so much on yourself, so much on yourself to the point that at the end of the day, when you sum together the things that oppose your success, the things that oppose your thriving, the things that might, mitigate against your getting to where you're going to, they will only be able to maximally disturb you a little, hinder you a little, slow you down a little, but they will never be able to ultimately disturb you completely from fulfilling your goal. Are you following what I'm saying? At another time, we'll be able to talk, like in the case of what he is saying about managing what have you. If you read a book like Dale Carnegie, for example, How to Make Friends and Win with People, you find out that you get a better way around handling this kind of people you're talking about. Like in this situation now, you have that wide age disparity, and you need to thrive right in that place. Because where you are is critical, irrespective of, because sometimes you don't have enough opportunity to be able to get to where you really want to be. And sometimes it's even better so that you can make the kind of difference that is required. Life, Paul Harvey said, life is 10% what happens to us, 90% how we do what? How we respond to it, right? Let me take that other young lady, for example. If you were so super excellent, almost to the point of indispensable, you find out that you may start negotiating with your boss. And because he or she doesn't want to lose you, right, they start cutting you some slacks. Am I correct or not? It depends on how super excellent you are. When they know that you are replaceable, right, there's a way they'll treat you, isn't it? So you make yourself indispensable. You make yourself what? Indispensable. So if you're going to thrive in the workplace, in the workspace, you need to ensure by every measure that whatever you are doing and wherever you are at any point in time, you give it your absolute, complete, full, over-the-board best, to the point that you know that you've actually done the very best you can in terms of interactions, in terms of having good HR, in terms of skill and ability, in terms of your character, because sometimes we are complaining that people don't like us when we are not actually likable. Sometimes we are complaining that people are not understanding us when we are not making ourselves that understandable. When we work on ourselves first and foremost, above anything else, most of the time, things begin to fall into play and take as much shape as possible. I would have loved to continue, but my time is up. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Amazing session. Can we please put our hands together again for him? And also give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you for paying attention. We so far have been receiving your questions, so you can also please keep it coming. We'll take as many questions as we can in the Q&A session. Also, among other exhibitors here, we have Jobberman. Please put your hands together for them, as I mentioned their names. Jobberman, Utiva. We have Career Buddy. Yes, please put your hands together for them. We have Lofty Dreams Project. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for honoring our invitation to be here at Career Fair 2.0 at the Starhub. Also, we have job opportunities still at Colored Spaces, Marketing Intelligence Analyst. So if you know that you are qualified for this, please approach Colored Spaces at the end of this session, at the end of the entire session, I mean. Also, job opportunity also at Colored Spaces for a personal assistant, right? Also for Colored Gray Consulting, they have roles open for a business development manager in the oil and gas industry. Also, the role of an accountant, PR associate, fiber engineer, copywriter, digital marketing or PR as well. So we still have a lot, but as we go on in the session, we will announce these roles that are open to be filled. Like I said, we've received your questions and we would like you to send in more questions for our panel. It's anonymous, of course we won't see, but please feel free to use the link. It will be displayed shortly, so if you've not sent in your question and you have any, please send in your question. Are we ready for the next speaker? Are we ready for the next speaker? All right. So our next speaker will be talking to us about building and sustaining a career with your talent.
Michael Amasalmist Akinrobunde, nicknamed the Silver Bullet, is a 2015 graduate of mechanical engineering from the prestigious Covenant University. He is a trained and practicing award-winning 26-year-old filmmaker with cores in directing, producing, and screenwriting. Upon graduation, Michael has been involved in media and film. He served at the Eagles Hope Foundation as the Associate Marketing and Media. He was 2021's highest-grossing director at the box office for his cinema debut, The Ghost and the Tout 2, the sequel to the 2018 box office blockbuster. He also directed Netflix's hit documentary, The Making of a King, which ranked top 10 on Netflix for almost 2 weeks. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michael Akinrobunde.
Hi guys. Okay. Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Everybody's seeming a little cold. As you can tell, I am very informal, so I think we'll be having a lot of fun and learning a lot. My name is Michael. I'm a psalmist. One part of that introduction is so cool. I was like, is that me? That's so cool. One part isn't very correct. I'm no longer 26-year-old, and it sucks. Yeah, I really liked when I was 22 and 23, and so I'm speaking on talents, building and sustaining a career with your talents, and I'm very happy that there's a lot of young folks here. It's so weird to say that. It's so weird to say that. A couple years back, I was the young folks, you know. My job is filmmaking, pretty much. So I'm going to share a lot of my experiences in film and in television commercials and documentaries, and hope that we can all learn from that, right? Now, I'm sure you guys have heard about talents a billion times. Find your talents, improve your talents. If you don't have talent, you can't have purpose, yada, yada, yada. But as important as talent is, I think the one thing that I learned early enough in my career is that talent is never enough. I've seen very talented broke people. I pretty much meet them and work with many of them. I've seen many talented, uninspired, or folks that just feel like they're not fulfilling purpose and just feel like they're wasting, right? Now, since this is a career fair, I have a video to play, and I'm going to akin that video to the first thing I'm going to be talking about, yeah? Faye, are you ready? All right, so this is a pretty popular video. I'm sure most of us have seen the video, but I'm going to share some lessons from that video as it applies to my work, and then we'll kickstart from there. Is that fine? All right.
Introducing social banking from GT Bank. Anywhere, anytime, any device.
Do we have your discharge certificate here with us?
Yes, it's already, one particular that I submit is there. It's there. Okay. I finished the NYC. Because that time,
can you turn up the volume a bit?
I just finished the NYC, then all of us pass out. So I put it in the application. It's there, but I can give you another one. I have the photocopy. When I was coming this morning, I did it.
That's fine.
Mr. Frank,
Yes, ma'am.
what's your philosophy towards work?
You said my work, ma'am.
Your philosophy towards work.
You know, ma'am. Mean that work is no man can anybody that doesn't not work, he cannot eat. So, but I think sorry, ma'am. Maybe if you tell me the question again.
Okay. If you had enough money to retire, would you retire, Mr. Frank?
Yes, I will retire, sir, because even there's plenty things that anybody can do. Because anybody, man, if I retire now, you don't need to struggle every day to come to work. So I can retire, man, because I want to eat the labor of my fruit, the fruit of my work. The work of.
Mr. Frank, I need to
I can answer the
understand.
question, ma'am.
What are your weaknesses? Like, what are your weaknesses?
My weakness.
Yes, tell us about your weaknesses.
I mean that anytime that's because I can used to fall sick, because anytime I can be down with fever. So and I weak. But I mean that as somebody that they rely on the office, you can't break down for many days. So anytime I weak from fever, I jack up again after 2 days and I move on. The weakness doesn't used to hook me down like other people. There's no problem with that. We don't have any issue.
Are you a team player, Mr. Frank?
No, ma'am. No, sir.
We would like to know if you are a team player.
No, sir, I don't used to play. I do because I don't believe in games, sir. I say anybody that can succeed in this life, there has to be a man of one mind. Anybody that used to play games, you can't. It's not. I can't rely on anybody that can play games.
What do you expect to be paid for this position as a project manager?
The thing is that, ma, I can't charge you. I don't know how this place, how you can eliminate.
Mr. Frank?
Because mean that even from my place, it's not easy to this place. If you can pay 12.5.
What?
Wait.
No, ma, it's.
What do you mean 12.5?
It's because it's traffic. Because before you get here in the morning, then it's not. Then accommodation around this place too is not.
Are you talking about $12,500
Okay.
or $1,000 or
No, ma.
pounds? What are you talking about?
No, ma, it's 12,500. But I can let's do it 83.
Okay. 8,300 naira, Mr. Frank.
Yes.
That's fine, Mr. Frank. Thank you.
Okay, sir. 6.4, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Frank. We will get back to you as soon as possible.
Okay. But in case any amount you afford.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. What of 2.5, sir?
Has anybody seen that video before? There's no way. You've seen the video before, right? I think first time I saw that video, I think the video was out 9 years ago. First time I saw it was probably 4 years ago. And it was definitely one of the things that, inspired my journey in filmmaking and all of that. Right. Now, my biggest lesson from that video is that Frank Donga had a lack of self-worth. And that is one of the most critical things that you need to have if you want a career in a place you've chosen to pursue your talent. Take, for example, I remember when I charged my first big money right? Have you applied for something before? Then you send a mail. So say they want to shoot a TVC, they reach out to you, send you the brief. I feel like before then, maybe I charged 300K, 250K, but I think that was like 3 point something million. So when you send the email, you know that thing that Gmail does? Now, you now give like 5 seconds to undo. I undid it the first time. I was like, this is too much. They'll just say, who is this one? So I reduced it. I went to like 3.2. I was like, and they'll come back and say they can only pay 2.1. And then it didn't even dawn on me that I was that guy. And at this time, I hadn't had any experience in that line of work. So that line of work being, I hadn't shot any television commercial. Reason why I'm using television commercial is because they pay more than film does. So if you are ever interested in storytelling, don't be like me and start from film. If you can make TVC money, my media people, am I talking? If you can make TVC money, go and make that one, right? And then I sent the mail. Now, luckily for me, I had a few friends that we were pitching together. So typically when there's a brief, when it comes, it doesn't come to only you. Don't think you are special. It comes to a bunch of directors, yeah? And then everybody does a treatment and then sends their treatment and sends their budgets. So I asked my guys, how much, blah, 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 blah. And I was seeing 7.5, 8.6, and they're like, nah, because it's the first time I'm working with them, I'm just charging them small. And me, confidently, with my useless charge, I was like, and that means they'll come for me now because I'm the cheapest, right? Now, what I realized from that is the way you value yourself is the same way your clients would see you. I've been on jobs where I see people walk off or refuse to take the jobs because they simply can't afford what they are charging. And then I would think that, oh, if this person is going away, then they would hire the next cheaper person. But many times, it doesn't work that way. For some reason that I can't figure out, they choose to hire the people that have better self-worth and that see themselves on some level. Right? This doesn't mean when we get there, we should go and say we want to collect 1 million per month. I mean, you can say, try, try. But self-worth is absolutely, absolutely important. I'll share a bit of my journey. I studied mechanical engineering in university. So what am I doing in film? Yeah, I remember deceiving, God forgive me. I remember deceiving my dad. I told him that, I convinced him that filmmaking was like human engineering, like you are telling people what to do, blah, blah, blah. It didn't work. So my dad is a mechanical engineer. And for some reason, I thought that the only way to succeed in this life, like if you want to have money, if you want to be stable and provide for your family and be like my daddy, was to study what he studied, go to the same school that he went to, secondary school dreams. And then, I studied mechanical engineering, but then in my 300 level, from my 100 level, I'd always been in theater, drama nights, I was in the drama team, and then I didn't even realize that I could make a career from film at all. I didn't know there were film career paths. I just thought, in fact, what was I thinking? I just thought these people just liked us so much and they were acting for us, maybe, I don't know. But then in 300 level, I remember seeing how much a producer, not director now, a producer earned. And then I compared it to, so in 300 level, you already start to get, ideas like Chevron is coming to school, Shell is coming to school, you're having career fairs, and you're seeing like graduate level salaries, yeah? And I was seeing those salaries and comparing it to what I was seeing online for, film people. And I was like, this thing is not so different and it can also be a career path. And I really, really, really liked film. Now, the important lesson here, yeah, is for many of us are probably going through this right now. You have your talents that is not very conventional, right? How many people like to sing? Thank you. How many people like fashion? How many people like film? Okay, so My biggest struggle here was convincing my parents that I could turn my talents to a career path. And that's where people miss it. You know how people say, if you do what you love, you'll never have to work a day in your life? It's scam. You see, if you do what you love, you would want it to come out so excellently that you work harder than normal people. My working schedule is crazy, right? Filmmaking is crazy. Filmmaking in Nigeria, in Nollywood, but it's crazier. So typically, on a standard set, standard Hollywood set, I was watching a Denzel interview one time, Denzel Washington, and it was like, Denzel is a really hard worker. On really tough days, he does like 3 scenes per day. And then if he really wants to push, he does 4 scenes per day. 4 scenes per day. In Nollywood, average, if you really want to push. No, in fact, if you don't want to push, say the production has money, you guys have a long shooting schedule, you shoot like 7 scenes per day, right? My first experience shooting 2-3 scenes per day was when I worked on King of Boys. And that was big budgets, yeah? And then came and come on set, she'll be like, okay, so guys, let's run the scene, blah, 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 blah. And then this is, say we start setting up by 7, 8 a.m. This is like 1, 2. We're still setting up, she's still doing rehearsals with the actors, and then she's ready to film. And then she comes on set, and she's like, I don't like this, I don't like that. In fact, guys, let's pick this up tomorrow. You see, let me explain what just happened. Camera rental for a day. Camera, lights, everything for a day would be somewhere between 6 to 7 million, right? Now, actors get paid per day most of the time, right? That's, say, another, maybe RMD probably charges, this is not fact, probably charges somewhere between, you're going to quote me now. RMD charges money. For example, yeah, add that to feeding and transportation and accommodation for that day. That's a lot of money, right? Now, how do I convince my parents that I can turn these talents to career? So, finished my university education, 500 level, 5 years, and then I was supposed to go for my master's in, I'd done mechanical, and I wanted to go for aeronautical engineering so that I'll now be a pilot, so that I'll now know how the plane is working. Jokes. So, you know, I finished 5 years, then I started US education. I'm trying to process my master's, yeah? Now, at this point, I was very sure that I wanted to do film, but I couldn't tell my parents yet. Now, the thing with parents is, especially like in our generation, I feel like most of us are Gen Z / millennials, yeah? Anybody born under, you will not talk, don't worry, no point asking. In their time, and this is what you have to understand, in their time, stuff like photography, singing, drawing, filmmaking, what else? Fashion designing, what else is not very popular? Poetry, okay. And then the boys stuff like that, back then, made absolutely no sense. So the thing is, they do not necessarily not want you to pursue what you want to pursue. They are just very scared at you calling them when you are 30 and asking for money. So the challenge is now on you to convince them that you can make money from what you really love. And that's where many of us miss it as young people. We think that talent is enough. Talent is not enough. Now, in my second month in US education, so you have to now fill, what's it called? What you want to study, like for the university. So they give you a bunch of universities, give you options, tell you the fees and all of that. And then I filmed film and cinematography. I mean, I was a graduate. Why was I not smart enough to know that they would have to call my parents to ask, so your word is blah, 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 blah. I mean, I was going, my parents was, I don't remember how much it was, but I was spending money going to US Embassy every weekend. And one day, the day came that they had to ask my daddy, hey, so your son is applying for film and and cinematography studies. We just want to get your sign off, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, no, 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 it's not my son. They were like, oh, Akirogundes, there are a lot of Akirogundes. We're like, no, and then he checked it. And then he thought I was applying for aeronautical, yeah? So my folks stay in Abuja. 2 days, I was on the next flight to Abuja. I was in Lagos. And I get home, and it's an entire event. Yeah, now I can laugh. But it was an entire event. My dad was like, blah, 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 you just wasted. And Covenant University is not cheap. You just wasted money, blah. Maybe you would have told us. I told them, if you would have told us, blah, blah, blah. It was not funny. So for some reason, and I thank God for that, my dad calmed down, and he was like, okay, so I finished school when I was 20. So he said that he was going to give me 5 years. That in 5 years, I should go and pursue, in his words, go and explore your hobby. Because in his mind, which one is career? Go and explore your hobby. He allowed me to come back to Lagos to do my service here. And I had a very clear mission. In 5 years, in fact, in a year, my mission was I wasn't going to ask home for money. Right? Like I wasn't going to. That's where your parents know that you've made it. The first day you call and say, hey, what's your account number? I want to send you. Which camera is the latest camera? That's when they know you've made it. So, came to Lagos. It sounds like I was broke. I was not broke, please. I just came to Lagos, slept under the bridge. It's a lie. I was comfortable. But then I did come to Lagos, and I had to now prove myself. Yeah, mechanical engineering degree, no experience in film. How do I get a job? Now, I really like when Yami was talking and she spoke about volunteering. That was my into, marrying my talents and my career. So I volunteered at Hope Foundation. It was a media marketing role. My salary was my salary. Let's leave it like that. But then I had NYSC 19.8. So I spent the better part of that year learning everything. And that brings me to my next point. No matter how much talent you have, there's a lot of learning that you have to do. No matter how much talent you have, there's a lot of learning that you have to do. So your talents, one of my cousins, he has this thing called, when you have pitch perfect something, I don't know. When you're pitch perfect, what's his name? He's very popular. There's an artist that's pitch perfect. It's one of my favorite people to listen to. I don't remember his name now. So if you do this, he can tell you what note of the keyboard that sound is on. There's folks like that here in Daystar, I'm sure. Like, those people that they want to lead worship, and then they start, you are Alpha, and then you now be hearing, pam, pam. The keyboard is pam. It will go back, pam. What they're trying to do is they're trying to find the key that the person is singing on, yeah? That's natural talent to some people, right? But that natural talent does not mean they can successfully play the keyboard. You have to now learn how to play the keyboard on many notes, or on many keys, right? So that's what I mean by you have to learn your talents. It sounds weird, but it's the reality. Now, when I started film, I think the biggest thing I had an eye for was seeing details. Like I could watch a movie with you. Don't go to the cinema with me. Because you'll be frustrated. If I see a scene in a movie, like, you guys know what scenes are now. Movies are in scene 1, scene 2, right? If I see a scene in a movie, I can tell you where the camera is, what the lens was, sometimes what camera was used, and I'm hearing the sound design. Can you hear that? Because it's nice, they're using birds, blah, 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 blah. I'm seeing and hearing things that you wouldn't typically hear. That's something that I learned on my talents, right? Initially, all I could do was say, this scene is very sweet, though. Do you get what I'm saying? Or you just know, from like the first 4 scenes in a movie, some of you can tell if the movie will be interesting, right? Now, you now have to learn your talent to know what makes that scene interesting, right? You see this thing I'm doing now, as I'm speaking to you like this, it sounds very normal. It feels like we're gisting. Now, you know that thing that Reverend Sam does, yeah? He's speaking, and he was speaking in church, and maybe he talked about leadership is XYZ, blah, 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 blah. In church, fresh, nice. Now wait till Monday when they upload it on social media. They'll go and add Leadership is back, soundtrack. You know, like, is that the same thing I heard yesterday? That's what training your talents will help you do. It will help you not just have your talents, but be able to, you know, sort of like galvanize all your tools to make your talent stand out, right? Now, first, so I was in Lagos, did the job for a year, right? NYSC for a year, learned everything around, well, not everything, learned a lot around photography, video editing, graphic design, and then I applied for my first job. My first job was not a film job. My first job was a media and design role in a company. I'll hold the name of the company. So I got into that interview, which I think we're going to do a couple of interviews today. So I got into the interview room. For some reason,